All right, so Yodit, just your initial thoughts on, again, Bill Cosby. 3 to 10 years, must serve at least 3 years in prison before he's eligible for parole, and the judge remanding him immediately and being let out in handcuffs.
Not surprised. I think the team, obviously, they were asking for house arrest. Not going to happen. The fact that he had five accusers testify in the guilt innocence portion, Andrea Constand's personal statement that was read, her testimony, prior bad acts witnesses that testified yesterday, all of that, considering the SVP finding that he was a sexually violent predator, all of that played a factor in the judge saying, you know what, you're gonna do the minimum, the 3 years to 10. Now, remember, the prosecutors were asking for what, 5 to 10. So he went below what the prosecutors were asking for. House arrest would have been idiotic. You have someone who's just been labeled a sex offender who's going to have to now register for that for a lifetime, who's going to have to continuously get counseling for a lifetime. And so, and mind you, the judge wouldn't be able to factor this in, but Cosby said nothing when he had the opportunity to. He didn't necessarily have to say that he was guilty, of course, or apologize, because, of course, that would have implications on their appeal. But he could have at least asked for leniency, some mercy, but he said nothing. So the judge can't consider something that no one says. So all he had at that point was what the state was providing, and that was testimony after testimony of survivors, accusers, of the like. So not surprised that he's got to do prison time.
As a lawyer, as a defense attorney, when you look at the multiple defense teams he had, the multiple lawyers he had, when you look at the comments the publicists made after the previous mistrial, when you look at the other comments, and then of course as they were heading to being sentenced, Camille Cosby very much attacking this judge, saying she hired a former prosecutor to investigate this judge in his past. I mean, I know judges are not supposed to take those things into account, but that is a lot of
Yeah,
things happening. When you would naturally you would say, you might want to temper that down. Your thoughts about all of that as well, leading up to the second trial, and then of course the sentencing.
well, ever since Cosby has even been charged with this crime, he's had the same PR agent who I think has been making failure after failure after failure in the public eye. Because if it's all about optics, you want to keep your mouth closed. You just don't know who's listening, not just the judge, but a potential jury pool, right? And they want to appeal as well. So there's going to have to be a court that's going to be looking at that appeal, and they're also listening to what you're saying. So what you say does have an effect, even if it's not coming out of Cosby's mouth. Camille Cosby, I'm not sure what her motivation is, considering the fact that a jury found her husband guilty on 3 felonies. The judge was going to render the punishment. I don't know if this is just more about optics. She just wants to let people know that this was maybe an unfair trial so that she could somehow save a shred of dignity when it comes to her husband's legacy that's essentially been flushed down the toilet since this has begun. So I don't know what her motivations are. I just don't think that it's helpful in any way. And I guess we'll see in the next coming, weeks when the appeal comes down and what that's about. But she didn't even come to court. I don't know what that says. That could be
Well,
very.
well, we got to remember she did not come to most of the trial. I think they came
Well,
to
you would think she
initial,
would come on the last day, though, Roland. I mean, he's going to be sentenced today,
and
and
I
you would have thought that she would have
and clearly
showed up.
I don't know of anybody who actually thought that he wouldn't get jail time. I mean, but at the end of the day, you could look at, again, all things that happened leading up to this. Look at even yesterday and know
No, it's not
that,
happening.
that he was going to get jail time.
Yeah.
When you look at this in terms of this society we're in, I had a tweet earlier that Vanity Fair set out, where they had this one writer who said that Bill Cosby going to prison is somewhat not it's somewhat good, if you will, to take away the bitterness of Donald Trump. And I responded by saying, how does Bill Cosby going to prison somehow alleviate the bitterness of Donald Trump being in the White House, considering Donald Trump bragged about grabbing women by their vagina? That's a
And
guy.
is the president?
He's the president of the
He's
United
the
States.
president,
You have
right?
a Supreme Court nominee who has been allegations of sexual harassment, sexual assault as well, who's about to
Yeah.
have a lifetime appointment as well. I said, I
Yeah.
just don't understand how Bill Cosby going to prison somehow goes, "Ooh, I feel better." Your thoughts on that?
So I got a lot of heat, and I'm still getting heat on Twitter right now for something that I said on CNN earlier. And I made the comparison between Kavanaugh's accusers and what's been alleged, against him, and what's been happening with Bill Cosby. And I think people are not really understanding, or choose to just fail to understand what I'm trying to say. In terms of Kavanaugh, people are already, and I'm talking about Republicans on TV, in the media, there are people on Twitter who support this man without ever hearing just even a word coming out of Dr. Ford or the other accusers' mouths. That, to me, signals something, because the reaction when it comes to Cosby's accusers, do you remember that magazine that had all of his accusers on the cover?
Right.
People were in support, as they should be, right? In support of hearing these women and their truth. That was supported. When it comes to Kavanaugh, though, there isn't a real opportunity for these women to tell their story and actually try and persuade, even though that's not their job, to persuade the Senate Republicans, for example, this Thursday, of what they're trying to say when their minds are already made up. They've already said out the gate, "I'll listen to her, but if I had a juror tell me that they've already made up their mind with regards to the guilt of my client, that juror would be X'd out automatically. If I had a juror who was already picked, say a potential juror who was already picked, and they, made it known that they had already made up their minds before listening to all the evidence, I would ask for a mistrial. That's not okay. Now, I understand that there's a distinguishment between a court of law and a hearing. Got it. But if we're really trying to get to the truth of these accusations for a man who's trying to get the seat to the highest court in the land, if we're trying to get to the bottom of the truth, then why are you not calling potential witnesses, compelling their testimony? Why are you not making him submit to a polygraph test? Because one of the accusers actually did, and it came back to show that she was being truthful. So it's how they're brushing her accusations and allegations under the rug for Kavanaugh, but when it comes to Bill Cosby, it's an applause. It's hypocritical.
Last question.
So many levels.
Last question. Were you shocked that we even saw what happened today? That when these allegations first came out, when Hannibal Buress, of course, his comedic routine went viral. Then, of course, this thing. Then all of a sudden, he gets go through this whole deal. All these women come out, and then he gets charged on the last day before the statute of limitations ran out. Were you shocked to see Bill Cosby let off in handcuffs?
On one end, I was, because this is Bill Cosby. This is America's dad. This is someone I've watched growing up, wanted to be a part of the family. So seeing him in this position was shocking. On the other hand, I wasn't shocked, because you have this man who has been revered in our community, who's been someone who's been a father figure to all of us, someone who's been an example for us in the Black community, and to be taken down the way he has been, and rightfully so. Not surprised, especially in the media. I would say in the media, it's been more than what I've seen with other offenders who don't look like us. Plain and simple. I mean, Brock Turner, do I need to mention him? Who, of course, he's
the former Stanford diver who, again,
3 months
raped a woman, and as she was lying on the side of a road, and the judge said, "Don't want his life ruined."
This is how we categorize white young offenders. It's like, oh, it was just boyish behavior. Oh, they have so much life to live. We can't ruin their future. Now, we're talking about an 81-year-old Black man, but still nonetheless a Black man. And I've been in the criminal justice system for about a decade now, and I've seen the stark differences. So on one hand, I was shocked. On the other hand, I wasn't.
All right. Yodit Tewolde, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland.